hashtag sports.
Paul, the stage is finally set for the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Oddly enough, the last time the Buffalo Bills were in an AFC Championship game was against the Chiefs back in 1993. So we'll get all into that stuff. We'll be talking about Mahomes, injury, the protocol, Paul going through a table, everything and anything under the
wait
sun.
a minute. Wait, that escalated awfully quickly.
Everything is going to be going on tonight, ladies and gentlemen, on the post-game. Obviously, we're going to cover the post-game of the Baltimore Ravens versus the Buffalo Bills, and we're going to preview a little bit of the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills, which is now going to be in Arrowhead Stadium, as we know, since the Chiefs were the higher seed. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you've never been here before, welcome to Hashtag Sports, where we are trending now and trending later. We cover everything from snap counts to salary cap, and we are your one-stop shop. So if you like analytics and insight mixed with humor and sarcasm, this is the right place. So you want to go down and change that red subscribe button gray. And if you want to be one of the hashtag heroes, we have channel memberships as well, so you guys can do that. So
Also, obviously home of very darling hats.
Absolutely. No question whatsoever.
The Bills win when you wear that hat.
They do.
That's all there is to it.
They do win when I wear this hat. And I got roasted last week when I didn't wear it, so I had to wear it now.
Did. Yeah,
so,
sure did.
I mean, all that aside, Paul, I had trouble saying this yesterday. The Buffalo Bills are in the AFC Championship game, which is going to be next Sunday at 6:40, so make sure. Paul and I are planning something little bit special for you guys for Hashtag Nation for that, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But before we get into any of the particulars for a lot of things that are going on, we want to say thank you to Mr. Rogers Homes for sponsoring this episode tonight. Mr. Rogers Homes, in the description of this video, you will see a link for Mr. Rogers Homes. So if you're tired of the snow and the shoveling and all this other chaos that happens in Western New York, check out Mr. Rogers Homes. And if you feel like moving to the Valley of the Sun with very, very minimal house maintenance, you can do that. So make sure you contact Mr. Rogers for that. And we'll be running some commercials for that throughout the broadcasts. And,
you're getting so good at those.
Your
game has improved dramatically there.
I'm trying, Paul. I'm really trying. But as well as, and for many of you that don't know, I'm always horrible with this, as Paul has stated just a second ago. We are also on iTunes and Spotify. So if you can't really catch our episodes on YouTube, you can catch us over on iTunes and Spotify. So make sure. And Matthias Walter coming heavy out of pocket. Getting out of the way quickly
Already?
Before I fall asleep. It was a very short night for some reason. Absolutely. Thank you, Matthias. And we want to thank also Bob Stolly.
Yeah.
Stolly. Welcome to the practice squad as a new member of Hashtag Nation. And
Hey, all right.
So
Love that.
Thank you for hopping in. We got 112 people in here ready to hear us talk, Paul. I'll just say this. I wanted to go live last night. I had circumstances that didn't allow me to, so hopefully you enjoyed a lot of the other Buffalo Bills broadcasts that were out there, but we're going live tonight. We may go a little bit longer than usual, but we missed you guys. That's probably why. So, Paul, I just want to talk.
Mario. Yeah.
Did that hat come with a free down on my luck cardboard sign? It sure did. Hey, you guys laugh, man. I saw 8 homeless people under a bridge the other day giving each other flu shots. I mean, what a wonderful community I live in. It's just amazing.
We've come a long way as a society, haven't we?
Absolutely, no question. So, Buffalo's on a tear. Buffalo's defense with a couple asterisks next to it, and I'll explain the asterisks.
Okay.
But Paul, what was your initial take on the game yesterday? Because I had a heart attack before it even started. The game.
Yeah, it was all that anxiety.
Yes.
Like, I'm not used to this prime time thing. I'm walking around my house at like 4:00, going, man, I feel like it should be over by now. Like, this is normally the time where we're talking about what happened. And I'm looking at my clock. I'm like, oh, we got 4 more hours. Then you order pizza and wings and they're like ready in 45 minutes. And that's the longest 45 minutes of your life, compounded on the fact that you had to wait so long for the game. I put it up on Twitter. I was like, if this is why Patriots fans were such jerks because of all the anxiety, I get it now. Doesn't excuse their behavior, but I kind of get it now. I was really hoping for a very exciting game. I don't know about you. I didn't find the game to be exceedingly exciting. I felt like there were some, what I expected to see from Buffalo, I didn't really get offensively. Defensively, I got exactly what I thought I was going to see.
Yeah.
So it was sort of weird. A lot of people talked about, well, this is Brian Dable's audition. I'm sorry, Leslie Frazier came out looking way better to me than Brian Dable after that performance. That's just me. Maybe I'm alone there, but I know Leslie Frazier's interviewing for some head coaching jobs.
He is. Yes.
Frazier, that was a great thing to put on your resume right before you go do some more interviews. I thought he came out looking great.
Well, Pierre even echoed your sentiment. He said Paul's key to the defense was spot on. I mean, we've been saying that for a couple of years, Paul. We're like, listen, Frazier's going to be the guy. You guys keep talking Dable. I love Frazier as a head coach somewhere. Mm-hmm. That guy should have been. I mean, he's already been a head coach, so he has, that under his belt. He has the experience of that, even though he wasn't very successful in Minnesota. He has that experience to go back to. But I mean, the flip side of that coin is there's just some guys that are better as coordinators and coaches. I mean, it's the nature of the beast in the NFL. It's a completely different position. You talk about, I think Bill Walsh was one of those guys that said, I know you hate when I always quote guys from the 80s and 90s, but he was like the head coaching position in the NFL is more like press secretary. You're kind of a delegator. And if you get those guys underneath you, and McDermott's done a great job, he has Frazier and Dable now. And the guys underneath them are even getting looked at for jobs around the NFL. So that's the credit McDermott and Bean and a lot of those for putting this staff together and what the Bills have been able to build here as far as their infrastructure from the front office standpoint during the AFC Championship game.
I mean, I agree with you there. And, we could look at what's going to be happening in the next few weeks. And, major coaching change is something we haven't really dealt with. We've let coordinators go, but losing a coordinator to another job really has a larger impact on the rest of the staff, right? Because like an offensive and a defensive coordinator, those guys brought guys with them, or they hired guys along the way that, if they're going to be moving up positions, you got to look at that, right? Who are the guys that you could lose? Yeah, I think that's a conversation for another day, right? But I definitely want to just hone in on the fact that I was so happy with the way that Buffalo played Baltimore. They didn't overcommit. No. They just sat there in the pocket the whole game. And yes, was Baltimore able to move the football? Yeah, of course they were. Of course they were.
Oh, yeah.
But they only scored 3 points. Yeah. You win a lot of football games when the only team only scores 3 points.
Well, I think, too, Paul, your initial reaction to it, and we got 150 people in here. We got 57 likes. You know what I'm going to say, Nation? Get going. Get on it. Get on. Somebody needs to do God's work in the chat.
Yeah, right.
So with a game like that, I mean, you look back to the Super Bowl with Denver and Carolina. And it's funny I'm bringing up Carolina, but nobody liked that Super Bowl, but I happen to enjoy a good defensive battle. I love the chess match that goes on with the 22 freaks that are on the field. I happen to enjoy that type of the game. So even though you're sitting there and you're biting off every one of your fingernails and you're twiddling your thumbs and you're probably having a few more adult beverages than you should.
Yeah.
Those types of games, I love the strategy and I love the adjustments that come out. You're 3-3 at halftime. You come out in that second half and you drive the ball down the field and you score a touchdown. You set the tone, and the game would have been, obviously, people could talk and speculate all the time. If the Ravens go in and score on that Teron Johnson 101-yard interception return, we're having a different conversation today probably. But it's those plays in the game that end up turning the games on a side. And then after that, the Bills will I like how they didn't. I don't want to say take their foot off the gas, but they weren't over pursuing, like you said. They were still being aggressive, but within the confine, they were playing within themselves, and that's what I saw with this Buffalo Bills defense. Which, to your point earlier, echoes from Leslie Frazier.
It's so interesting, right? This game, you talk about. And we had mentioned before, this was not a game to learn to establish the run, right? You knew that was coming in. This is not a game that you want to try and run the football. And the Bills made no effort to run at all. And I think one thing that I found most interesting there is you wanted to make the Ravens pass, right? That was the whole idea, was try and take away the run as early as you could and make the Ravens throw the football. And the Ravens really didn't get outside of what they normally do. You weren't really able to dictate all that much, but the Bills were one-dimensional, right? The Bills were clearly in no position to run. They had no interest in running the football. They were very one-dimensional, and they were still able to move the football because you have players like Stephon Diggs, and John Brown had a phenomenal game. He was dancing the rope all the way down the sideline. What a great game he had.
He did.
And I think that's sort of underrated. Jerry Hughes had an excellent game. John Brown had an excellent game. The reason Diggs was so impactful was because Brown made some really nasty catches along the sideline early on. That kept some drives alive. Like it's John Brown to me was more valuable in opening up the game than any other player, because Beasley was a ghost. Beasley was completely
they did dedicate
completely
some time.
unhelpful to the offense.
I mean, the guy catches 82 passes during the regular season while missing a game. You're going to devote some attention to him, and the underneath coverages and what's that. And I knew that Peters and Humphreys were going to try to man on Brown and Diggs, and we knew that going in. We saw that. Because of the way that they played. And you start to look at, we got to figure out, well, now with injuries going on, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but you got to talk about Gabe Davis. He didn't look like he was 100% for more majority of that game, which is probably why Brown was stepping up into some of those roles and doing some of those things that Gabe Davis
was hurt. Yeah,
against
Gabe Davis looked hobbled from the first snap.
He did.
He looked
it
hobbled.
Wasn't good, but I mean, we'll have to try to monitor that coming this week. And Shiva's Gold. Oh, Shiva's Gold comes in. Get some Modelo's on me. Harrison and Hughes played great. Thank you for your content. As always, Shivas, we appreciate you. And the Modelo will be flowing, my friend.
I was asked if I was drinking White Claws. It is not a White Claw. It is actually a Loca Mocha Java Monster. It was a late night last night, guys.
You're drinking a Monster at 7 o'clock. What is wrong with you?
And you know what I got the snack on? Some sweet tarts.
Some sweet. You mean you didn't get any Chex Mix in honor of Brian Dable?
No Chex Mix in honor of Brian Dable.
I mean,
I actually Googled to see where Chex Mix is manufactured to find out if he's going to go for a job that's near the factory where Chex Mix is manufactured.
Yeah.
That's how low fruit that joke is to me now.
That's how. You guys are mentioning Hughes. Guys are mentioning Harrison Phillips, as Shivas just did, and a lot of other guys are mentioning Hughes. We said that. Listen, stay in your lanes. Don't let him make him throw the ball. Don't let him run all over the place on you. And he did a few times. He caught. He got out of the pocket. You understand. But you're never going to completely contain Lamar Jackson. Let's just get that out of the way right now. The guy is just such a freak athlete at the position. He brings such a unique dynamic to the game. But going from the thing that I'm worried about a little bit is going from him and the skill set that he possesses is going to Mahomes. And I mean, I want to talk about that, and we can talk about the first matchup. But I just want to go over something really quick as far as the protocol, because you know what, Paul, you weren't here.
Okay. See what? Okay. Yeah.
The chat was booming about the protocol, the 5-step protocol that the NFL institutes. I looked it up. I researched. I did some quick notes on it. So I'm going to give hashtag Nation that right now. First stage is rest and recovery. Okay, he could do some stretching. He could do a little bit of that. And I just want to also echo the fact that he needs to be checked before he has to go to any of these other stages. All right, the team physician has to check him to make sure that he goes to the next step. Okay, so the first one's rest and recovery. Okay, second one is light aerobic activities. Okay, so you can do the bike or the treadmill or anything like this. Meanwhile, he's not touching a football officially throughout these first two steps. He can't. Can't practice, can't run drills, can't do any of that stuff, okay?
But he can participate in like classroom film breakdown, non-activity.
All film activity he can do, all breakdowns, all that stuff he can do. Okay, stage 3 is the cardio strength training. Okay, he can mimic sports activities, but he can't really be with anybody else as far as doing that stuff. So, and then step 4 is football specific activity. So in step 4 is when he can finally start throwing, okay? Now, I don't think that has to be a worry for anybody. We all know what Mahomes brings to the table when he throws the ball. Okay, maybe some of the time will be off, but we have to realize this. Having the protocol right now, after he already took week 17 off, they had, their bye, then he plays, he gets hurt, now he has to go off again. You know what I mean? Something's going to be a little bit funky to start the game, I think, with Mahomes. All right, and then we'll get into that as well. So the 5th step is full football activities. He could, but there's a clause in there in the CBA that says he could simulate if there's no practices left. So he could simulate. So okay, he can have a jersey on. Oh, that's step 4. I'm sorry. Step 4 is he can have a jersey on, no contact jersey, all this other stuff. But the 5th step is he could simulate it during practices. But if there's no practices, he can just simulate what's going on. So that's the 5-step process. Okay. After he goes through those and gets checked for each one of those to see if he doesn't regress, he can then get checked out by the team physician, which I don't see him not clearing him. And then he has to go to an independent neurological consultant. If this guy is from Kansas City, the independent consultant, I'm going to be really suspect. Okay.
Right. Sure.
But that being said, those are the stages of the protocol that a player has to go through. Now, going through those in 7 days is a little iffy to me. You know what I mean? It's a little bit iffy.
So we're going to be suspect if the last name of this neurologist is Goodell, right? Like if the last name's Goodell, that's a red flag. We're throwing that red flag up. Come on, we're talking about the prime time game next Sunday, because the Bills have already locked in against Kansas City. We know that's the prime time game next Sunday.
Yes.
You know, that's the game. They're going to do literally everything legal and some things not legal to get Mahomes on that field. Like it's going to happen. They're going to give him whatever they can. And Peyton Manning used to talk about this. Remember Manning? They used to give a test at the start of the season, the baseline test for concussion protocol. They used to just give a test and say, okay, this is your baseline. And Manning would talk about it. He's like, I intentionally bombed that test. I would intentionally not do well on that test, because that way, if I did have a head injury, I'd still pass it better than I did the first time. But that's where we've come from, you know? Like, that's where we've come from.
Yeah, Donnybrook comes in this chat and he says Mitch Morse went from stage 1 to another stage in the same day.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, stage 1 to 3, he's saying. He went from stage 1 to 3 in the same day. I mean, it's possible but you have to take into account, A, when it happened, B, he looked lost. He looked like, where are you? Like, what's going on? You know, it didn't. I am fully expecting Mahomes to play.
Right.
110%.
Well, Gronkowski brings up a great point. He goes, it depends on the severity that he starts at. I mean, the hit did not look that bad.
No.
Like, when I look at the hit is not your typical concussion hit, which, I mean, at this point, that might be, if you're Buffalo, that might be a good thing that it wasn't a typical hit, right? Because he was messed up.
Yeah. I mean, you could get a baseline of it. It seems like his you know, remember that Drew Brees hit that everyone made a meme out of when he got hit and his neck looked like a giraffe?
Right.
That's what Mahomes, it looks like he got stretched. You know what I mean? His head turned and it was just, it didn't smack off the ground either. That's why it was just a little weird. And then maybe the severity of it, because it didn't look like a typical concussion hit, could play a factor. But all of that intertwined, you know, as a Bills fan, I'm not sitting there crossing my fingers saying, oh, I hope Pat Mahomes doesn't play next week. Because if we remember week 6, Paul, in the first matchup, he was not, I'm going to sound really stupid right now, but he was not the guy that throws for 350 and 4 touchdowns in that game.
Right. No.
Okay. That's what the Bills defense was designed for in that week. And I know a lot of people will probably go back and forth as far as the philosophy. I love the philosophy. It was the execution that was not on par in week 6, and they still almost won the game. They still had
Smiles
a chance.
Smiles brings up a great point. Smiles Blake says he also had a toe injury at the beginning of the game.
He did, yes.
I'll mention a turf toe.
Those are nasty.
Yeah. So explain a little bit, because I know a lot of people hear what that is, but you know, it is nasty. If you ever Google pictures of what turf toe actually looks like, it's some pretty awful stuff. So can you explain a little bit of what specifically turf toe is?
Okay, it says no, I'm just looking up real quick. It says recovery time. I'm not, you know, Paul, I'm not a doctor. I don't know about turf toe. As far as I knew, it's a bruise, and it usually takes like typically 2 weeks to fully recover. But that's you being off your feet. However, he has a conflict of interest as far as himself goes, is he has to do light exercises, yet he can't do those with a turf toe, yet he wants to pass a concussion protocol. Well, what do you do? So, I mean,
so let me explain a little bit what turf toe is then. So turf toe is if you take your big toe, it's a sprain in the joint that connects your big toe to the rest of your foot. So it's that big knuckle that's sprained. So basically every time you step on it, you feel like somebody's stabbing you in the foot. Right where all your weight goes. So it absolutely messes with you, right? You can't push off of it very well. For a quarterback, if it's his right foot, big problems. If it's his left foot, you could survive a little bit. I know it's your plant foot, but you can just plant off to the side a little bit and avoid some of the impact. But if it's your right foot, there's no avoiding it. For a right-handed quarterback, there's no avoiding it. That's nasty stuff.
No. And Paul knows all about release points.
Sure do.
As far as planting his foot. Trent Murphy had Trent Murphy had a good game too. How about that?
Yep.
How about Trent Murphy?
The Ginger Ninja. That's what I'm gonna call him. The Ginger Ninja.
The Ginger Ninja.
Yeah, great job. Great job by Trent Murphy. The Bills defense as a whole, those defensive ends did a great job of not allowing Baltimore to get outside, which is what they want to do. They want to stretch the edges, and they just couldn't. They couldn't stretch the edge. I do want to bring up a comment that was just done by Jay Bowling. Yep. Do y'all think it was Dable or Allen's fault for lack of offense yesterday? Or was it the wind? I saw Apex brought up that the wind was impacting deep balls as well. That is absolutely true. So what happened yesterday, with the offense in the first half and into the second half? And is it something to be worried about going against Kansas City?
Well, I don't think I think the one guy you got to worry about in Kansas City, there's two guys. You got to worry about Jones up front, obviously. You got to try to take care of him. And that's a guy that can blow up any play of yours. But Tyrann Mathieu was everywhere. This guy was everywhere. So if you wanted to say that, okay, the Bills can sometimes, if they wanted to try to get their running game going, they can run to the outside. Tyrann Mathieu was funneling everything back in to everybody that was scraping. I mean, that's basically what he was doing today, against the Browns. If you had to just talk about it, the Browns have a much more effective run game than the Bills, obviously. So maybe he'll just be back more in coverage and a lot of things that he's doing. But that's a guy that you have to try to find on every single play. But as far as that defense goes, and as far as what Allen, talking about Allen versus Dable, what was going on, I think the weather had a little bit of a factor in it. And I think it's not a coincidence the fact that they were trying to take a couple deep shots early in the game, and then all of a sudden they started pepper everything down low and dumping it off and checking it down. I don't think that those two are mutually exclusive of each other. I think that they were trying to get guys out of the box initially because you talk about they're a very heavy blitz team, and they didn't blitz very much. They didn't. They were staying back. They were trying to read and see what was going on and trying to say, like a lot of times we talked about with Darrell Williams on tackle. Remember he was playing against TJ Watt. Like, listen, we're going to put you on an island, kid. Unless you need help, we're going to leave you by yourself. They were putting Humphreys and Peters on islands over there. They were moving. I loved what Allen and as far as Dable was going. They were moving Diggs around. They were trying to get him down in the slot. They were trying to move him and try to get guys off of him as far as that goes to try to free him up. But I like the game plan that was going in. But we've been talking about this for 3-4 weeks now, Paul, as far as the offensive game plan with Dable is like, okay, you have a bend but don't break defense. You may not generate the turnovers. Plus, you can't really guarantee that you're going to get turnovers in every single game. We're going to go up against teams that are going to run the ball, and they're going to try to keep the ball out of our offense's hands. How can we maximize the amount of possessions that we currently will get? Will we get 8 or 9 a game? Can we score on half of those?
Right.
I think that's the maturation and the evolution of this offense is the fact that, okay, they're not banking on getting 10 to 12 possessions a game now. They're saying, listen, if we get 8 or 9, how can we maximize those? So the adjustment of the play calling within that thread will also follow. So I think as far as that goes, that's what I think has been happening over the last couple of weeks. We saw the Buffalo Bills have been able to do it because, Paul, this is what I wanted to allude to earlier. Against Indy, Bills had the ball for 25 minutes. Against Baltimore, they had the ball for 24 minutes. Okay. Number one.
That's not a lot.
No, it's not. So let me exactly what we were talking about, though. You know what I mean? They're going to try to run the ball and keep the ball out of Allen's hands. So the Bills were offensively able to generate 10 points and were they 27? So you look at that. Does that concern you more? And I want to throw this to the chat as well. Does that concern you more as far as the offense is concerned, that they have to score points on every single possession? Or does that concern you more about this defense getting tired later in the playoffs?
That's a tough one.
I know, right?
Right. That's a tough one. I mean, the Bills defense has done something that I think kind of flies underneath the radar, and they've been able to generate additional possessions that this offense has needed at times, right? My biggest concern always is that the defense is going to gas out, right? For Buffalo specifically, my biggest concern always is that the defense is going to gas out when you have an offense that just refuses to run the football, right?
Yeah.
That's the odds of 3 and out. I understand that passing generates more yards than runs than running the football, but this defense has bought the Bills extra possessions that they've been pounding teams into the pavement recently, but I'm always going to be concerned about the defense gassing out. If you run into a game where you're on the opposite side of the turnover battle, that scares me. Right. Yeah. I need to do everything I can to stay on the right side of the turnover numbers. And the Bills have done that. You win football games by winning the turnover battle. But my biggest concern is always the defense gassing out here. They're playing great right now. They're playing fast. I think that does a great job. I think that'll be big for Buffalo going against Kansas City. But I think Kansas City is going to try and slow the game down a little bit. It's at this point, CEH is probably going to be back healthy.
You think so?
Yeah, it's looking like he's going to be healthy, which is a big deal.
Interesting enough, though, Paul, that is a big deal. Now, you ready for these? I got 5 names for you, sir. 5 names.
All right.
5
Let's
names.
go.
Week 6, Buffalo Bills versus the Kansas City Chiefs. 5 names that did not suit up. Mm-hmm. I'm going to throw this in the chat. You can't look. All right. I'm going to quiz you, Paul. 1 offensive player, 4 defensive players did not suit up for the Buffalo Bills in Week 6 against the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to know if you know them.
Oh, no. Dude, I don't remember Week 14.
You're not helping.
Mario, we have conversations in the afternoon, and you'd be like, Paul, why don't you say what you said to me on the phone? And I'll just look at you. Week 6. What are you talking about, Week 6?
Then guess, Paul. Let's make it interesting for the chat. Already got one of them for you. Okay, the chat got one of them.
Okay. Let me think.
Paul, lay off the smoke, dude.
Yeah, it's clearly this monster has got me, right?
Oh, I didn't even know that one. The chat gave me one. Oh, that's nice.
Okay.
2 offensive guys.
Think. Okay, so let me think. So
I think
Harrison Phillips. Harrison Phillips was out at that time.
Harrison Phillips, that's one. Congratulations.
He played. He was huge last night. He played great.
He was.
But if that's the defense you want to run with defensive tackles who are just not going to over pursue, Harrison Phillips fits right into it. He's not a pass rush guy. He's not a pass rush DT. You can't expect that of him. So Milano was out. I know Milano was out at that time. The layups, Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm.
Stop it.
TJ Yeldon.
No, he didn't play, but it's not a. I'm talking about significant.
Yeldon wasn't inactive.
I'm talking about.
Yeldon's been active. Oh, significant players.
Significant contributors, Paul.
So
you got Phillips and who's the second?
Phillips, guy? Milano.
Phillips and Milano. Very good. Yep.
Murphy. I'll just bet the
Murphy was inactive.
Yes.
No. Donnybrook. Zimmer did play. Paul Berg did not play too. Okay, that's another one. I forgot.
I'm gonna go with Tyler Kroft.
I just got to say thanks, Rick, for his comment. No. Tyler Kroft was active. Therefore, who was inactive was...
Dawson Knox.
Dawson Knox.
And wait, wasn't this the end of the Quentin Spain era here?
This was the end of
Spain.
Quentin Spain. No,
that's
Feliciano.
it, right?
Feliciano did not play.
Okay.
Levi Wallace.
Oh.
Levi Wallace.
Earl says O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson... Also inactive,
but he was very excited about that new Bronco that's coming out, the Bronco Sport. So Josh Norman played 100% of the snaps in that game, along with Edmonds. Mm-hmm. And what you had in lieu of that was you had Gabe Davis playing 62% of the snaps in that game.
Yeah.
Tyler Kroft was in for Dawson Knox in that game. You had Brian Cox Jr. at defensive end for Murphy, along with Daryl Johnson. Okay. You had Milano. Playing the role of Matt Milano in that game was Mikavich, Dodson, and Deion Lacey. Okay? And then Norman and Cam Lewis were your corners.
Oh, my God.
Okay? But
wow.
Given that defense, Paul, Kelsey went 5 for 65 for 2 touchdowns. We know how much of them. That's where Milano doesn't take him away, but can provide a better coverage linebacker for you there. Tyreek Hill, 3 for 20.
Yep.
3 for 20 that game. We talked about Clyde Edwards-Helaire going 26 for 161. Mahomes had 10 carries for 36 yards in that game. So 36 carries out of Mahomes. And so because of the coverage and what they were able to do with guys that aren't their normal starters.
Right.
Mahomes went 21 for 26 for 2.25 and 2 touchdowns. Both to Kelsey.
Yep. And Pappy Laugh says, and we allowed only 26 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And you look at it, that last field goal, the Buffalo Bills were down 23-17. They had that 3rd and 14 that they could have. You think they would probably get a stop on that play. Mm-hmm. And I think the Bills had 2 unnecessary roughness penalties on that drive as well to extend it for the Chiefs because they were so frustrated with Edwards-Helaire running all over the place. But that's why I say, and I always echo back to, I don't mind the philosophy that the Bills came into that game with.
Yep.
Does the philosophy change with the amount of guys you have now? That those names I just mentioned, now it's almost like a different team.
Oh yeah, I mean Edmonds was hurt at that point. Allen was hurt at that point. Like the whole team. It was a disaster, right? Welcome, Garn O'Freck joins the practice squad. Thank you very much for joining. The whole team was banged up, right? Yes. It was a practice squad team. Like, thank God rosters were the size that they were at. Right? Because it was a practice squad team that you were playing out there. They still did a good job. But again, I think we learned something from the theory there. And the theory was that we were going to allow Kansas City to run for as many yards as they could get. Right? We were just going to shut down the pass. And Kansas City wasn't fooled by that. I'm excited to see what this looks like. And I just saw somebody mention asking, do we think Trent Murphy will be active against Kansas City? I don't think Kansas City gives you a reason to activate Trent Murphy. I don't think so, right? We talk about Murphy being the guy to set the edge, but do you really need to do that against Kansas City like that? Like, I think AJ Epinesa can give you everything you need out of Trent Murphy. Like, I just don't see Trent Murphy being active. I think he did. I think he played well. But with Gabe Davis being hurt, man, is this a Duke Williams or Kenny Stills sighting? Are we if Beasley's banged up, dude, like, you just have to look at that Gabe Davis position. The only player that can really duplicate what Gabe Davis gives you is Kenny Stills. Gabe Davis is physical. Duke Williams is physical, but Duke Williams is not as fast as Kenny Stills. So what really are you looking for, right? Kenny Stills is not Gabe Davis. He's faster than Gabe. Is that what you need? Like, if Gabe Davis is really hurt, who's active? Duke Williams or Kenny Stills? Who do they bring up?
Those are my only choices.
Right. Yeah. Those are your only choices.
You're saying that I have to activate somebody in lieu of Gabe Davis, and it's either Duke Williams, who has experience in this offense and has played in this offense, who's not as fast as Stills, or you got Stills, who's coming in fresh, just starting to learn this offense. Albeit, was he in? He was in Houston, though, correct?
Yep.
So he has some semblance of the EP system. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe the different verbiage, O'Brien versus Dayball might be a little bit different.
But he's been here for a few weeks at this point, and you're not going to be asking Kenny Stills to play 70% of your snaps.
No.
You're not doing
but if you're asking him to replace a Gabe Davis, I think that's a tough role for either one of those guys.
Yeah.
You have Dawson Knox, who is kind of, would you call him the hybrid between Croft and Gabe Davis?
Does that mean we're going to see more Lee Smith snaps? Because I do not want to have anything to do with that.
Do you think that they want to run more? Do you think they're going to want to run more in this game?
I mean,
keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands, who's banged up coming out, and then you had a cast of characters on the second level and third level that aren't going to be playing in this game. You got a lot of your regular starters back, and you were still able to hold Hill to 3 for 20. You got Milano back, who can somewhat do more damage against Kelsey, because the guy's a freak. Kelsey's going to have his catches. But no, here's the craziest part, Paul, that I mentioned. I mentioned the time of possession. And I know I'm going back and forth with the defense here. They gave up 472 yards against Indy and 340 yards against Baltimore. They didn't get as many yards offensively as either one of those teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's almost like probably a common thing. I want to alert Bills Mafia and #Nation is the fact that if teams start driving, like if the Chiefs end up driving on the Bills, I wouldn't have panic attacks if they don't stop them on a 3rd and 12 or a 3rd and 4. Don't worry about it. I mean, they've been in this position before where they've given up and they've come back and they've stopped them. I mean, they just can't get drugged up and down the field. But if you're telling me, I would take. It's gonna sound really weird. I would take an 80% Gabe Davis over Stills or Williams at this point because he's been there every week with Allen.
Really?
He's been there every week with Allen. You're telling me that if Stills in this read offense, as far as a wide receiver goes, Stills turns the wrong way on a throw and Allen throws it and it goes right into the arms of Tyrann Mathieu. You're telling me.
Yeah. I mean, I get where you're coming from there. But yes. I think the reason that Gabe Davis has been so effective is because he can press downfield and give you that size advantage, right? I don't think it has. I don't think you're asking. I don't think you're asking him. Exactly. I don't think you're asking a replacement for Gabe Davis to step in and take 100% of his snaps. I think what you're going to find is they're going to continue to kind of use Beasley as a decoy. You'll see more touches for McKenzie, and then Kenny Stills will be in there on 42% of snaps to just do what Robert Foster used to do, right? And just try and open it up. You take a couple shots, and you just hope that magic happens.
Well, if you're saying that 42%, why not have Gabe Davis there then? Why not? If you're not asking him to play 100%, I mean, he played 62 the first time with Brown and Beasley and everybody healthy, and you see who else was in there as well. But it was just you look at the offense as a whole. I mean, from week 6 until now, the Buffalo Bills, they had that terrible game against Tennessee. Then they had to play Kansas City. You look at a lot of the factors that surrounded that game that we talked about, Paul. They were preparing for both Tennessee and Kansas City because they didn't know who they were playing.
Yep.
Short week. Yep. Who knew what was going to happen? The Bills came out a little, but you know what? No. Here's the craziest part. I don't think the Buffalo Bills offenses have played their best game in these first 2 playoff games, and they still have won.
Right.
Because of what this defense has been able to do to their opponent. Mm-hmm. So I think that they may get their footing against this defense, which I think is the weakest of the 3 teams that they've played so far. You talk about the Colts, you talk about the Ravens. Even though Kansas City brings a different challenge with Spagnuolo calling the shots over there, I don't think it's as tough of a challenge as the first 2 games. Mm-hmm. So
MP brings up a great point.
Yes.
He says, I'd like to see more pre-snap movement involving McKenzie next week. Love that point. Yes. What haven't we seen the last 4 games? We used to see McKenzie in those jet sweep looks all the time. We'd see it 7, 8, 9 times a game. And then slowly we've seen a transition away from that, right? I don't remember seeing it once yesterday.
You know why?
I didn't see it once.
You know why?
Why?
Could it be that Allen is progressing in his reading of defenses?
Well, he sure knows how to check out of a run play. I think he proved that yesterday.
He did.
Sure knows how to check out of that run play.
No, but I'm just saying though, like, what is the one great thing that providing a lot of motion, a lot of pre-snap motion does? That it lets you know the coverages, who's on who, what's going on. It probably identify the mic, shift protections, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Spagnuolo doesn't do a lot of that stuff.
Well, we saw him motion Diggs a lot yesterday, and the reason you can just watch. And what were they doing? They're watching the safety. Yeah. Right, that was the whole motion Diggs, and they're not paying attention. They were paying attention to the safety. What happened to the safety when Diggs was going? Because it would tell them, because they were playing single high. They were only playing one safety most of the game.
Yes.
It would tell which side are they going to shift to, right? Which side are they leaning coverage to? You motion Diggs, safety goes with them. You're like, all right, well, either we got a blitzer coming in, or they're putting help over the top because Diggs is on that side of the field, right? But Kansas City's not going to make it that easy for you.
But here's my point, though, Paul. Here's my point. You motion McKenzie, you motion Diggs, 2 totally different animals now. Mm-hmm. Okay? If you have a single high that's over the top of Diggs and you motion McKenzie, nobody might move. Mm-hmm. But if you motion Diggs and that safety moves, now you know. So motioning either one of those guys, they probably saw that throughout the tapes that were going on when they were trying to run those jet motions with McKenzie's probably saying, hey, nobody's moving when we move McKenzie. They don't care when McKenzie goes into motion. They're not doing any tells. But as far as Spagnuolo runs a very base defense, is listen, we have our guys. We're going to line up. The only guy that really moves all over the place, just as the Buffalo Bills were trying to move Diggs around to try to get him off of Humphrey and Peters in that game, is Tyrann Mathieu. That guy is going to be moving all over the field. If I'm Allen, that's the only guy I'm concerned about. That's really the only guy I'm going to be concerned about where he is on all those plays. Yes, Paul Berg, 9-7. Amen. Yes. It is a fight. It is a fight.
9-7.
Black and yellow. Black and yellow. Oh wait,
it's going to be something we hear for the next few years, Mar. That's the life that we've chosen.
If the Bills win the bowl, I'm printing 9-7 shirts myself. I don't care.
Why? Speaking of getting hated on, Nick Wright gets to get Pinto Ron now with ketchup and mustard. He gets to get the whole Bills Mafia experience. And even in his tweet admitting that he was wrong about this, he just had to be a snarky bastard.
He did.
He just couldn't say, "I'll take it like a man." He couldn't do that, right? He followed up with, "It'll be the last game. This will be the last game you guys win until September." Like, you just couldn't keep your damn mouth shut. You just couldn't take it.
He is, I mean, I can have a few choice words for Mr. Wright, but I mean, it's one of those things where we know this. Everyone knows this. If you want attention, negatively or positively, you go after the Mafia. If you go after Bill's Mafia, you're going to get attention. And he found that out 2 weeks. Right. You know what I mean? He found that out really easy. Right. That if you happen to try to stoke the fires of Bill's Mafia, we come out in droves against you. So he's talked about that he won. The way that you can get rid of Nick Wright is just not talk about him anymore, and he'll go away.
It's Shady Who says the same thing. Nick Wright just wants the clicks. Yeah, I think at this point you're just poking the bear.
He does.
You're just poking the bear.
What do you say now? Well, everyone's going. People need to go and see what hashtag sports is saying right now.
I do admit that I started a Twitter thread about people who could suck it, and Nick Wright was certainly in it. Yes. And that list got long, like real fast.
Oh, it was Rodney Harrison,
real fast.
Rodney.
Yeah. Rodney Harrison is in there. Dominic Foxworth, obviously Nick Wright, Rex Ryan because he picked against the Bills. Teddy Bruschi because it's Teddy Bruschi.
Teddy. I mean, the guy.
Terry Bradshaw, Howie Long. The list got long.
Paul, you don't remember a lot of things, but please tell me
Skip and Stephen A. Yeah, I remember that.
Please tell me you don't remember a lot, but please tell me you remember when the whole Teddy Bruschi stat came out after his.
Oh God! When he had the stroke and his first game back was against the Bills, and then they magically came up with a hits category, so otherwise known as missed tackles. Yeah, that's great.
That's
a hit. So what you do is you take a tackle and you take the hit and you subtract them, and that's called a missed tackle. That's what the stat was. Teddy Bruschi with 15 hits, 2 tackles. Great job, Teddy. Real proud of you.
Oh, my God. That's crazy. But, okay, let's see if we can try to circle this bad boy back around. You look at the first matchup, Allen 14 for 27, also your leading rusher. He had 122 yards passing that game. Two touchdowns, 1 interception. He had 8 carries for 42 yards. Yep. Not, like I said, different offense now. He's not prone to running. He's not just going to take off. He's going to find somebody that's open, which I love that he's able to scan the field. He's maturing as a quarterback, and I love that. Diggs 6 for 46 with a touchdown. Beasley 4 for 45 with a touchdown. 2 top receivers. It seems like that's what they were allowing them to have. As far as the minimal amount, now let me go to the Bills thing because I just want to go because that game in particular was absolutely ridiculous as far as TOP.
Time of possession for those of you keeping score at home.
True story. Sorry. So the time of possession, Kansas City had the ball for 37 minutes and 45 seconds in that game. Obviously running for as many yards as they did.
Right.
They ran for 245 yards, 9 for 14 on third downs. Bills were 4 for 9 on third down, which isn't hateful. But you look at being able to generate points. Bills down 13-10 at halftime.
Yep.
So.
Well, halftime adjustments are a thing now.
They are.
Right.
That was one of the games that the Bills didn't score in the third quarter. We talk about it. We talk about it all the time. Well, that team's not here no more.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's not. And to be honest with you, if you take a look at because I know that Greg Thompson tweeted out somebody else's tweet about halftime adjustments. I think if I'm remembering correctly, the Bills have scored on their first possession after halftime in 6 out of the last 7 games. If I'm remembering the stat correctly, I'm going to go back and check that.
Yeah,
because I think that's a big one. We were hammering the third quarter adjustments, and that team is not here anymore. Right? They have I don't know how they figured it out, but they have figured it out. I'm going to go back and just double check that stat because I need to just make
Hey,
sure
I
that
just want to
I'm
say
right.
too, as far as hashtag nation is concerned, I see a lot of new names popping up in the chat, and welcome, guys. Welcome, hashtag nation. Welcome to the chaos.
Oh,
and
welcome to the
mayhem.
big show.
Welcome-
Welcome to the big show.
Please keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times. Do not listen to when Paul starts to troll everybody, especially myself. So just be mindful of that.
Don't be so sensitive.
I am, Paul. I am. Because you know what? You start to look at the yards that Kansas City gained in this first matchup, 466 to 206 for Buffalo. The time of possession was absolutely insane. It's a different team. I've said this to you. Now, my brother, as many of you know, we used to do the film breakdowns last year. He was quoted for saying minus quite a bit.
Minus.
Definitely minuses on a lot of plays. But he was saying, listen, the Chiefs have a championship pedigree. They know it's a marathon, not a sprint. They know there's no Super Bowl hangover for them and blah, blah, all this other stuff. I firmly believe that their last meaningful game that they've played was Week 13 against Tampa.
Yeah, and I got to be honest with you, they did not look good against this Cleveland team.
No, they didn't look good against Cleveland. They lost the last game of the season, which you got to know. You lost a game. I mean, that's psychologically that still does something to you, even though you didn't have a lot of guys playing. Okay, so the continuity is a little bit off. Like we saw, it was a little bit off today. You look at, they beat the Falcons by 3. They beat Denver by 6. They beat Carolina barely. So if you look at it, now I'm not discounting anything that the Chiefs are doing. I'm just saying that it doesn't seem like they're in that fiery mode that they were in last year when they went on their run.
Okay.
But
Do you think the game at home changes that?
It could. I mean, if they won today and they could say, wow, finally we got by that one. But they're in their third straight AFC championship game at home. Like how worried are you?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you played Tennessee last year. You played New England 2 years ago. Now you got the Buffalo Bills coming in with a very similar offense that New England played. You end up losing to New England in overtime because you couldn't get the ball back. Right. I just see that the Buffalo Bills can come out hot and hopefully score against a defense that's not as good as the first two defenses that they faced. But then again, I don't want this defense to go into that, hey, we're up 10, let's throw it into neutral.
Oh, God. Can we just – oh, God. That was so frustrating, the end of the first half. We were just watching Buffalo let Baltimore just work their way slowly down the field.
Yeah.
So that way you could look at maybe – how lucky were you going to get that Tucker was going to miss another field goal? It's the first time he ever missed 2 consecutive field goals his whole career ever. You know, like I did find it funny. You know, the Twitter exchange that we had that Tucker looked like, a bulimic Joe Flacco, right? Like just a shell of Joe Flacco.
That was so funny.
When are you going to see Justin Tucker doink consecutive kicks ever, let alone 2 in a game, let alone it ever be consecutive? Yeah, come on now, right? So, but it was so frustrating to watch them do that. And that's the one thing about the Frazier defense that just gets me, is while they've been generating turnovers, right? And they have been. I'm not going to fault them for that. They take chances, right? They do occasionally take chances, and they seem to time them well, right? But just there is a point where you're up 10 and you're just like, oh my God, are they really going to let them walk down the field? Right. I think that was a product of the fact that the Bills couldn't blitz or didn't really blitz that much against Baltimore. Against Mahomes, are you going to bring pressure?
I think depending on his the protocol and what he's doing, all this stuff, Kansas City is going to keep everything tight and in house. They're not going to let too much information out, but you start to look at the two teams that are coming into this game. Buffalo, obviously red hot, winning. They win 9 in a row now at this point, 8, 9 in a row. They just defeated two very, very tough and physical defenses. And they were able to get victories against both of those teams as far as Indianapolis and Baltimore. You look at Kansas City; they had a bye week. They lost the last week of the season. They had a bye week. Now they just barely get by the Browns.
Yep.
It could be a wake-up call for Kansas City. And we know that the confidence level of Kansas City will be up. Because you already beat the Bills this year. What are you worried about? But with the cast of characters that are coming back for Buffalo, it's not going to be, this is the matchup everybody wants to see. This really is the matchup everybody wants to see. You know what I mean? So you talk about a lot of things that are going. Mahomes versus Allen. You can talk about that matchup. You can talk about Tyreek Hill versus Tre'Davious White. You can talk about Matt Milano versus Travis Kelce. You can talk about the offensive line versus this Buffalo Bills defensive front. I want them to take the portion of the game against Baltimore where they were just pushing the pocket with their defensive tackles up front. Don't do anything because Mahomes can move, barring the turf toe, barring that he doesn't want to take a shot. He still can move. This may be the game where Hughes and Addison hunt. It
has to be, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to imagine that it is. I got to be honest with you. I think Mario Addison's playing for his job right now.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look, the Texans are out there and Bills Mafia News actually DM'd us on Twitter asking about J.J. Watt. Is J.J. Watt a target for Buffalo? J.J. Watt has 1 year left on his deal with Houston, and if you just give him a 2-year extension, you can make the numbers work if you're going to let go of Mario Addison. What would you rather do? Would you rather save yourself $6 million cutting Mario Addison and trade for J.J. Watt and basically give him that money, or do you want to stick with Mario Addison? Like, I think J.J. Watt is absolutely on the radar as somebody who would come in and instantly be a culture fit in Buffalo, instantly fit, and 100% just instantly replaces Mario Addison.
You're talking about replacing Mario Addison.
Without a doubt.
With the Carolina ties that they have, and not – that could be something that's done if Frazier goes.
Just saying.
Just saying. If Frazier goes –
that's a Frazier thing?
If Frazier goes,
I don't think that's exclusive to Frazier. Are we going to fight?
We could. I mean, that's okay. We could throw hands. That's fine with me. I think a lot of people in Hashtag Nation want to see that. But I'm just saying, though, you talk about this defensive front and a lot of things that were going on in the last couple of years, and then he brings in Eric Washington, who he had familiarity with in Carolina. You got to think that in the start of the season, when everyone was worried about the defensive line and what was going on with the rotations and everything, you got to think that him and Frazier kind of butted heads a little bit due to philosophies. You know, that's a McDermott philosophy, what Washington was running. And Addison and Butler are part of that philosophy. So if you're talking about Leslie Frazier, if he goes or, Washington goes, because he could go. He's just as prone to go too.
Yep.
Maybe that decision is made and Mario Addison is put out to pasture for J.J. Watt. I don't know. That seems like another conversation for another day that we're going to have in the car. That's because I got to fight you on that one. I actually
I'll fight you on that. We'll go toe-to-toe. I do want to bring up a stat that I think is really kind of interesting. People talk about this Kansas City offense like they just absolutely destroyed everybody. Kansas City's record this season, right, was 14-2. Do you realize that 8 of their wins were by 7 points or less? Right. When you think of the Kansas City Chiefs, you think of this high-powered offense that's just torching everybody, right? Because you look at some games are out of hand, right? They've got 3 games of 15-point plus margins, and they were out of hand. But I mean, dude, they won 8 of their games by seven or less points. Like you look at Buffalo this season, Buffalo only won 4 games of 7 or less points,
really?
Right? Like, yeah. So when you talk about high-powered offenses, aren't we talking about the wrong thing here? Right? Like, Buffalo's been on the right side of that stat that when you start talking about, like, advanced betting lines, like, Buffalo's the bet here. Like, I know people are going to talk about Kansas City because of all the talent that they have on offense, but the fact of the matter is that the games have been closer in Kansas City than they've been in Buffalo. And that's just a fact. Like, that's just a fact. And that's what I don't understand.
But the Bills over the previous 2 seasons have played a lot more closer games than Kansas City has. So
yeah,
like
no, I
said,
agree with that. There's probably some reputation there.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's a changing of the guard. I understand that. Could this be like a 1998 version of the Minnesota Vikings where they were winning games like 34-28? You know what I mean? They were just their defense just wasn't getting dragged up and down the field, and they had this really high-powered offense, and they were barely just eking out games. I mean, I think it says a lot because as far as the makeup of the team, all right, maybe Kansas City, they just know how to win. Maybe that's just one of those things. But if you looked at it, I think someone did a graphic, and I saw it the other day, where that if every game ended at halftime, what would the records of every team be? Guess who wins the West? The Chargers at 10-6.
Yep.
Chiefs would also have been 10-6. So if games ended at halftime, they're not 14-2, they're 10-6. So they got 4 more wins on their belt, losing at halftime. So that's another thing I think we need to say about the Buffalo Bills is the fact that even if they're up at halftime, it's not okay. They're going to run away with this, blah blah blah, and all this other stuff.
Right.
But in that same graphic, the Buffalo Bills are still 13-3.
Yeah.
If you ended every game at halftime. Hey Rick, welcome to the 55.
Yeah, welcome to 55 man. Welcome.
What's up, buddy? I just. You know, Paul, we pride ourselves on, if there's one thing that Paul and I pride ourselves on is being objective when we try to break down anything for you guys in the hashtag Nation and Bills Mafia. I'm having a really tough freaking time with the things that are developing and how I see this Kansas City team, how I see this Bills team, this Bills offense not playing up to their elite potential right now, still winning games. This defense coming on real strong, even though being on the field a ton. I thought they were going to get gassed. They weren't. I'm having a real hard time containing my excitement for next Sunday at 6:40. I really am.
I know. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm trying to be as objective as possible, but the Chiefs have beaten the Bills before. They do have a very explosive offense. They do have the best tight end in the position at the game in the game at the position. Tyreek Hill is a matchup nightmare for anybody.
Absolutely.
So the delegation that you were going to have as far as the defensive line trying to contain Jackson last week, now your secondary and second level, your linebackers have to take care of Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce.
You know what, Mar? I see that actually as a big, having played Baltimore.
Yeah.
Kansas City just has to throw all that tape away, right? Everything you saw on tape against Baltimore defensively,
absolutely.
If you're Kansas City, none of that helps you.
Those
the
two
Bills
offenses are night and day.
Right, but the Bills played base defense a lot in the first half, right? They played 3 linebackers, which we haven't really seen that much of, without blitzing. When we've seen the Bills run 3 linebackers, typically they've been bringing pressure with A.J. Klein, right? But the last 4 or 5 weeks, A.J. Klein hasn't really been there in that blitz role. They've taken a step backwards. As Milano has gotten healthier, A.J. Klein has lost playing time, right? That's the way that it's gone. So everything that happened in that Baltimore game, Kansas City can't use. It's stuff that we never would that the Bills would never do defensively against Kansas City. It's a totally different animal. So everything that they saw is garbage. It's garbage. You can't use any of it. Offensively, I think there's some things to be said, right? The one thing that scared me a little bit, Buffalo and specifically Josh has been able to make big things happen as plays break down.
Yes.
Right? And we saw that against Indy. They really kind of depended on that in the second half of that football game, right? Was Josh's creativity as things broke down. I got to be honest, against Baltimore, it really seemed like they figured something out, right? And made it really hard for Josh to be creative once things started breaking down. Like it just seemed harder. And I don't know what that was, but it just seemed harder for Josh to create against Baltimore. And that's the thing that scares me a little bit is I don't think Kansas City's going to miss that. I don't know what it was. I haven't gotten a chance to go back and watch the game again because obviously you don't get to see coverages from the TV coverage. I mean, you don't see the secondary coverage.
Yeah.
But there's something there. I don't know what it is. But
I think that the strengths that Baltimore has at the cornerback position, I think that's now shifted to the safety position as far as the Chiefs are concerned. So while, you could take some of the tape of what Baltimore did well against Buffalo because they held them to 10 points. And it was a very, thank you, Elliot. Appreciate that. And Elliot comes in. Thank you for bringing the Mafia together. Your work with the Punt Foundation and making us the most educated fan base in the NFL. Go #Nation. Thank you, Elliot.
Oh, thank you, Elliot.
Appreciate you. And thank you for taking care of the
chat.
Yeah.
I do want to point out, John Marlowe says that it was cover 2. I do think Shivas Gold brings up the weather. I think Donnybrook says, I think it was the wind. Lockman 60 says, Lockman 60 F Nick, right? Great adjustment to your
handle.
name.
Love it.
Weather. Yeah, I think the weather impacts a bit. Obviously with, Mahomes versus Allen, they could be playing in a hurricane and these guys are still going to be throwing the ball 60 yards down the field, right? There's 2 of the strongest arms in the league, without a doubt. But John Marlowe says that it was the cover 2 that Baltimore was running. Baltimore wasn't running cover two because cover two is predicated on having two safeties. Like, and they weren't. You can't really run a cover two with a single high look.
Yeah.
Like you really can't do that. So
It's tough.
it wasn't cover two.
I want to switch over to the Buffalo Bills defense because you said that it's going to be a different game plan. You're not going to play a lot of base because of the volume of run. I mean, we could say two different things here. We could say, okay, they're going to try to force Kansas City to throw. Okay. Or to run. They're going to say, listen, they tested to see how patient Andy Reid was going to be. He was patient and he was running. Punt this, Mario.
Thank you, Freshly.
Thank you, Freshly. We will. We definitely will. That was one. Two, if you're talking about, let's say you're right. Let's say there's no need for Trent Murphy in this game, which I think there is. I think setting the edge would be huge, especially if they try to go with the same defensive philosophy of running the ball, or allowing Kansas City to run the ball. Let's say, okay, you don't want Trent Murphy in this game.
Mm-hmm.
What's to stop the Buffalo Bills from inserting A.J. Klein into that role as defensive end on the other side?
I think it's a very distinct possibility, right? But you're asking Klein to do something that he hasn't really done all year. But Klein was effective as a blitzer. And again, you haven't seen it in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So if you're Kansas City looking at recent film, that's something that's not there anymore. It was there after, that really became prevalent after the Bills played Kansas City, right? Mm-hmm. Is when they figured out how to use Klein in that blitz type role. And in the last few weeks, it's gone away. So, I think that's a wrinkle that you could throw in at this point, and it would be something Kansas City might not be prepared for.
I know. Yeah, Lorenzo Klein, Donnybrook, and Daniel Gary's coming out swinging. Something for the Punt Foundation. Thanks to Paul and Mario for helping a good charity out and for the great Bills coverage. Bring on Kansas City, go Bills! And if you guys are new members to new subscribers, or you're just here for the first time with our Buffalo Bills coverage, the Punt Foundation, which is Brian Mormon's foundation, stands for Persevere, Understand, Need, and Triumph. It's for children with pediatric cancer. Paul and I are raising money, so all the super chats and all the memberships, 100% of it is going toward the Punt Foundation. So if you happen to be one of the now, if you're a member, you're now dubbed one of the hashtag heroes. So we can't thank you enough for your contributions. The Punt Foundation cannot thank you enough. And also, we're going to be coming back with some of this talk as far as the Buffalo Bills go, as far as their defense goes. But we want to give you a quick word from our sponsor, Mr. Rogers Homes. So sit tight for about 20 seconds while we give you a word from our sponsor.
Hashtag Sports is proud to partner with Mr. Rogers Homes. Sean Rogers is a proud Western New Yorker and is now your Arizona relocation specialist. You can see his reviews as a top 1% agent on Zillow, Homes, and Trulia.com. Go ahead and download his free Arizona relocation guide found in the description of this video. Subscribe to his YouTube channel, and, as Sean would say, God bless America and go Bills.
And we are back. That was quick.
Nice and easy.
Nice and easy.
Nice and easy.
So yeah, like if you were thinking of relocating into the Valley of the Sun, please check out Mr. Rogers Homes. His link is also in the description. You can give him. He's the top 1% realtor in Arizona. So if you're tired of shoveling snow and cutting your own grass, 2 things you won't have to do in Arizona. So check him out. Tell him Paul and Mario sent you.
Yeah.
So, Paul, do you try to run the ball more against Kansas City?
I mean, how can you, right?
Right.
I don't. So there's a couple things I found most interesting, right? Antonio Williams being activated from the practice squad, but not playing. I found that really interesting because it gave you the option to activate him if you wanted, and then they insanely chose not to. Not to say that he was going to play over Taiwan Jones on special teams, not to say that he was going to play over TJ Yeldon, but there was nothing that TJ Yeldon did for you that Antonio Williams or Taiwan Jones couldn't do for you, right? So I
He's
really
better
think
picking up the blitz, though.
Well, Antonio Williams is actually pretty good at picking up a blitz. Is he better than TJ Yeldon? I'm going to go with you. Probably not at this point, right? Given the years Yeldon's been in the league, I would imagine probably not. But Antonio Williams gives you something that you don't have, and that's running inside right now. Now it's only one game, and I'm not a big fan of, the 15 minutes of film that you have on him, right, for his NFL career. But it's something, again, you can throw at Kansas City that they really don't have much on. They're not much there, right? I don't know, man. I feel like you kind of need to run a little bit on Kansas City because if you become one dimensional against them, that's just bad news, right? They've had teams playing from behind with them for 3 years. Like they know what a one-dimensional team looks like that has to throw. That's how they've played nearly every week for the last 3 years.
True.
Why are you trying to throw all the time? Like I feel like you can't against them.
Yeah,
I mean, am I wrong?
I mean, but that's weird though because if you look at the two previous, and I know it's all about matchups, you can't really go off, but they did play two pretty tough defenses in the first couple of weeks of the playoffs. But you're starting to look at it and say, listen, they'll have an easier time to throw, barring weather conditions. Now, I think it's going to be more of an impact for the receivers than the quarterback because Allen could throw it through a tornado and have it come out on the other side. You know, I'm not worried about that. But he did have a little trouble with those touch passes down the outside. I mean, a lot of quarterbacks are going to have that trouble. I mean, Mahomes had a little trouble today throwing the ball deep,
Right.
and you know, with some consistency. But you start talking about what's going to happen in this game. The Buffalo Bills, I think, should go in with their same philosophy that they've had, and the scripts have been good. Mm-hmm. I've liked the script that they've come into games with. Dable's done a great job with the script, trying to see what the defense is going to do. Coming out at halftime, the third quarter thing that we talked about really early in the season, which week 6 when they played them the first time was a thing, not a thing anymore. They're starting to make those necessary adjustments. But you know what? Spagnuolo, this is not his first rodeo. He's been there before. He's coached a defense that beat an undefeated team in the Super Bowl. So he knows how to coach in big games against the EP offense. So all those things intertwined. This still is not the same Buffalo Bills offense that that they're going to see that they saw in week 6. It's not the same.
Oh
offense.
yeah, no, it's not.
Really
It's not even close. And again, you've got Devonta Freeman, who is break glass in case of Freeman, just like Kenny Stills break glass in case of Kenny Stills. The way that Buffalo has changed their roster management. Using those veteran practice squad spots, which are new, like those are new. You could never do this before. And this is something I think is going to stick around. Like this is so successful with the veteran players that this has got to stick around. They have to amend the collective bargaining agreement to include this. This is great for veteran players, right? But to be able to take those veteran spots that you were using on like Deion Lacey, that you were using on some guys you'd never heard of, and now to be able to take those veteran spots and turn it into Kenny Stills, turn it into a former first round pick and a linebacker, to turn it into Devonta Freeman, like that is so bright, right? Because you may not ever need those guys. That's fine if you don't need them, but you have them, right?
Yeah.
And just the thought that they could be active makes an impact that, like Kansas City, do you have to go back and watch film on Devonta Freeman to see what similarities there are?
No.
I'm just saying, if they activate him for this game,
you know what you have in the guy. You know what you have. You have a guy who can run the ball in between the tackles and a guy that can catch the ball on the outside for you. You're getting yourself insurance policies. Bean and McDermott have been notorious for doing that. They get themselves insurance policies. Stills is, like you said, in case of emergency, Kenny Stills. Yeah. Case of emergency, Devonta Freeman.
I want to correct something real quick.
Yeah.
I just hold that point real quick. So Kimberly Granger says, we haven't lost both coordinators. They can't even interview until after the season's over. They can't accept a job until after the season's over. That is true. Leslie Frazier's already interviewed for jobs. So is Brian Dable. So they are interviewing, but they're not allowed to accept any job. They can't be offered a job until after their team is no longer in the playoffs. Okay, so that's the way that works. They have been interviewing, actually, so it has nothing to do with the interview process. They can't accept a job or be offered a job prior to their team being eliminated. A lot of confusion on that. Sorry, just to interrupt. I think that's an important thing to bring up right now. So
Paul Berg coming in hot
for the brand. For the brand.
What's up? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you as always for manning the chat as well. You and Elliot, thank you so much.
Yep. And Michael Rissman wants to bring up that the reason the Bills beat Baltimore was because Josh Allen's Wonderlic score with this 37 and Lamar Jackson's was like a 13. Just so you know.
Usually I'm all for the I'm all for the Wonderlicks, but I hear the change around the table. Yep, they're waiting on him, Daniel. We've talked about it many times on the show. That's one of the things that's one of the places that Dable could go to have the most success right away.
Yeah.
You got a quarterback on his rookie deal. We can talk about all that, coming up in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, after the Bills win the Super Bowl, we can talk about that. But
after the Bills secure that 32nd overall pick.
But you talk about this now. It was brought up in the chat. Why run the ball? Why run the ball? And I replied with, listen, the reason why you run the ball is because, hey, Chuck Christopher, welcome to the Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame first ballot.
Yeah. What's up, Chuck?
Just to let you guys know about the hashtag heroes and the channel memberships, there are 5 different levels. There's practice squad, 55-man roster, Pro Bowl, All Pro, and Hall of Fame. Hall of Famers, we usually have a call with a Zoom call with everybody. And, you get early access to all the videos if you're a member, and a bunch of other things that are included in with that. And then usually, because during the season is not really, a lot of things going on during the season when things changing so fast. Paul and I don't really create episodes all that often, but we still do. In the off season is the time where you guys, that membership is going to pay dividends to you.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of things that we do. Yeah. So, that being said, I was starting to make a point as far as, when you start running the ball, it opens up play action, which I think is very beneficial to Allen. All right. What does play action do? Well, it moves linebackers, gets those guys out of zones in certain times that you want to move guys. Usually use play action if the quarterback is having trouble reading zones or you're having trouble getting open. Mm-hmm. Now, Paul, and I'm going to throw this to the chat as well. Do you think this is the reason they're not running the ball as much and they're just supplementing it with a short passing game and not running play action as much? Because because Allen is reading zones well. Mm-hmm. Guys are getting open. So there's no need really to run play action very much.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I completely agree. While the running game normally opens up the pass, right? In today's NFL and in this offense right now, they've got so many playmakers available to them. It's just, it's you have to sacrifice something, right? You just have to sacrifice something. And this offensive line is in such a rhythm pass blocking, whatever. You know what I mean? Like Allen's got all day back there. That's fine.
He does. I mean,
that's fine. He's got all day.
I mean, I do like mixing it in there. And Shiva's goal even said we did one play action the whole game. It was a short pass to Knox, which was a key in that drive. It was in the third quarter. It was a key moment in the drive. It was a nice little play call because they just totally forgot about him. Maybe we'll see if Kansas City totally forgets about him too. But I just thought it was an interesting point to bring up because you start talking about how Allen has progressed. They did try to run the ball. Why do you try to establish the run? Either you want to get guys to creep into the box so you can throw it deep. Well, you're not really going to throw deep if the weather is that much of a factor. Anyway, that's one. Two, if you have a quarterback and guys that can get open, a quarterback that can read zones, you can shift guys with your eyes, and like a lot of things that Allen is doing. It's not necessary to have that, but it's always nice to have that in your back pocket. But the key to that is to try to run the ball successfully, which I mean, Singletary had some good runs. I mean, he had some pretty good runs against the Ravens. Sure. What did he ended up with 7 for 25. Not hateful. You know what I mean? But a couple of those were, his long was 12. Mm-hmm. But he just didn't run them. You ran the ball 7 times with your starting running back, who's a rhythm runner.
Yep.
Yeah. Meh. Schmeh.
That's where you are. That's where you are. The thing that bothers me most is that the running backs could be such a factor in the pass game, and we just still seem to be flying by that. You know what I mean? Like that's what gets me. That's what Yeldon gets you. That's what, Singletary fights catching the ball. So I'm not saying Singletary is the answer there, but Yeldon definitely is. Like he's a dangerous receiver. So
he is.
But the Bills have no interest in involving their running backs in the pass game at all. Like that was super clear. Not necessarily. I see Paul Berg mentioned screen passes. I'm not going to say screen passes, right? I'm just saying outlet passes. When you look receiver 1, receiver 2, receiver 3, let me not create and push downfield. Nobody's paying attention to the running back. Let me just take the easy 7 yards, the easy 4 yards. Allen doesn't really take those yards yet. We saw him do it a little bit 2 games ago, but
which opens up so many more things in your offensive game plan, because if you start peppering it down to those guys, either like Apex and Shiva, swing passes or checkdowns, if you end up doing that, you open up the defense east and west. So that opens up more things for your wide receivers within the game. And you know what? I guess it all depends on they're taking, if you start to look at Indy and you start to look at Baltimore, two teams that they can bring the heat, they can come after you. I think, though, the running backs were more important in pass pro than they were going out in a route.
Yeah.
Because if a guy's blitzing, you want him to pick it up so you can maximize Allen's time rather than having a running back go out and have him dump it to him. Like for the reason that you immediately just said, he fights the ball a little bit too much.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that Matt Parchuk comes in and says, how much cap space do we have?
Yeah, I was actually I was just typing a response to Max. So salary cap is a little tough to gauge right now because it's based off NFL revenue, and with no ticket sales, revenue is obviously impacted. So it sounds like they're going to keep the cap flat. Like there won't be a decrease, there won't be an increase. It's going to stay right where it is. The Bills will be around $20-ish million if it stays flat. It is possible that the cap could actually go down because it's based on revenue.
Yeah.
So if it goes down, the Bills are obviously going to have less space. I don't foresee it increasing with obviously no fans in the stands. So I would imagine that it's going to stay flat, which will put the Bills around 20 million. Not counting their draft class, because remember you have to take the draft class
and
money out of there
usually
too.
10 to 13.
Yeah.
But with the picks that the Bills will have, they'll be all 32 in each round. So, no, I'm just kidding.
Robert says draft a tight end. I definitely think you're still looking for a tight end.
I don't know if you're drafting one, though. I don't know if you're going to be drafting one. It depends.
Yeah.
It's also going to depend who the offensive coordinator is here if they believe. I know that's.
Paul Pagano asks, did Dawson Knox play yesterday? He did play yesterday.
He did.
He did play.
He caught a very key third down play. I just want to go over one more time as the chat fills up. We got 242 viewers of #Nation in here. I just wanted to really quick go over something. Let me see, 160 likes. Love you guys, #Nation. I just want to just go over. People were asking about it earlier. We gave a little bit of a breakdown of it earlier, but one more time, I just want to go over the 5 stages that Patrick Mahomes, if he is in concussion protocol, the 5 stages that he has to go through. Number 1, rest and recovery. And then also he has to be checked out by the team physician to progress to the next stage as well in all of these. Number 1, rest and recovery, light stretching. Stage 2, light aerobic activities such as the bike or the treadmill. 3, cardio strength training, which is he can mimic sports activities but not have any sports activities that he can go through. Number 4, football specific, when he could start throwing. He could start throwing. So I expect the first day, Mahomes more than likely going through the first 3 stages. A lot of people like I can't remember who mentioned it earlier, but Mitch Morse went from stage 1 to stage 3 in one day. So I just want to mention that so he can do throwing in stage 4, and in stage 5, full football activities. He can go through a simulation if there's no practices scheduled. So those are the 5 steps. He then gets checked out by the team doc, and then next he gets checked by an independent neurological consultant in order to see if he can play in the game. So that's the 5-step protocol for the NFL per the collective bargaining agreement that has been passed down. I fully expect Mahomes to play. I don't think any Bills fan should not expect him to play. I wanted to thank everybody who contributed to the super chat tonight and all of our new channel members, the #Heroes, for donating to the Punt Foundation, Brian Moorman's foundation for children with pediatric cancer, as well as I want you to check out the description for Mr. Rogers Homes. If you're looking to, take a trip out to the Valley of the Sun and move out of Buffalo, you're just tired of this cold weather, or you just want to get a summer place, please contact Sean Rogers at Mr. Rogers Homes, the top 1% realtor in all of Arizona. Tell him Paul and Mario sent you. Paul,
with that, just a real quick announcement. Yes. The partnership that we have with Mr. Rogers, yes. all of that is also going to punt. So our hands are off of all of that.
Absolutely,
so,
yes.
Yeah, all that, anything, that partnership with Sean, all that money is going right to the Punt Foundation too. So, it's great to be able to build that partnership and benefit, an awesome cause along with you guys, which we're blown away by all the support. As always, you guys are incredible.
Love it. And then also, if you're not a YouTube fan, you can catch us over on iTunes and Spotify. And we are also, as you can see on your screen, on Twitter and Instagram as well. Paul, we're going to have more stuff covering the Buffalo Bills versus the Kansas City Chiefs for the rest of the week. Obviously, the hype video is going to be you guys are going to want to stay tuned for that one. The hype video for Bills versus Kansas City is going to be something special. I've been putting some time into that. I started creating it at the same time I created the Baltimore one. So I put some time, even more time and effort into this one. But really quick, as we are approaching that hour, Paul, we didn't do it at the end of last stream. People
I know
were
we got
upset.
torched for it.
So I will extend it to a 4-minute roasting session.
Oh, man.
We had a 2-minute one. We usually have if you're new to Hashtag Nation, we have a 2-minute roasting session every time the Buffalo Bills win. So I will reset this timer to 4 minutes. We usually have a 2-minute roasting session where you guys can just mess with us the whole time, and we read them off. So I will start the 4 minutes now. 4-minute countdown. 9-7, Mario. Absolutely. If you guys are new here, I predicted the Bills to go 9-7 at the start of the year by winning the AFC
And proceeded
East.
to do that through, week 13. Like, you did not fall off of that one.
I didn't fall off of it until Arizona, buddy. No, it was
Paul watched the
Arizona.
Nickelodeon version of the Bears-Saints game. I actually did look for it. It was different. It was different.
Good. 3 minutes and 33 seconds left. Okay. Oh, no.
Mario gives empty gift cards to homeless people. No, funny story. People give empty gift cards to Mario because of that hat.
Well, if it's the roasting session, I should look like Pippi Longstocking anyway. So.
That is terrifying.
It is terrifying, but you know what? We have some fun here. I'm your Huckleberry.
Let's see. Paul orders his hats in children's sizes.
That is not true. That guy's got a dome on him. He doesn't show fully
Yeah,
on the
that's not
screen.
true at all. Did Paul ever go through a table? I lost that in the.
No, Michael, he did not go through the
not
table
yet.
yet
No.
because of certain circumstances and good old C19. We have not gotten together since we drove in the car during the bye week. So,
Yep.
But next week for the AFC Championship game, we're going to plan something a little bit special for you guys. We just don't want to let the cat out of the bag just yet. Tom Hood, how would Buffalo do without Josh Allen? That is a roast right there. No,
Oh yeah, no thanks.
he's all of their
Yeah,
offense. Like
We need to sleep, Tom. Come on, come on.
Mario orders his shirts in schmediums. That is a true fact. That's not a roast. I order schmediums.
Schmediums?
Schmediums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
that
still can't wait to
Wendy?
give you your Christmas gift. By the way.
I
Yeah.
still haven't gotten Paul's Christmas gift. That's how
Yep,
we
nope.
haven't gotten together.
Yeah. The voice in the house. I've been called the songbird of my generation from those who have heard me, like a cross between Fergie and Jesus.
I don't think you want to be Fergie
Roseanne
anymore.
Barr gives you guys a
Wow, no, she,
That's digging deep. That's digging deep.
Mario looks like a girl who woke up next time I haven't had a drink.
Nick Wright is at the grocery store shopping for clout.
Hey, you brought her home with a 5 o'clock shadow. That's not my fault. Mario has PTSD from when Paul pumped through. I'm still feeling some effects of that. Mario should work new shift at work, maybe 9 to 7. Yes. Yeah. Oh wait, what was Apex talking about? Oh, the voice. Now?
Paul's shirt size is boys husky.
Oh wait,
I don't know about that.
Joe Miller's in here. Joe Miller's in here. Where's Joe Miller? There he is. Hey, there he is. Brian Bowers too. Nice. Nick Wright. Never heard of her. Oh my God, that is good.
Unfortunately, Joe came in right at the end of the.
Yeah,
At
he
the
came
end
in
of
at
the
the roast
stream.
session. This is not really the analytical part of our show. Pretty fun though. Paul, have you ever jammed with Elliot? The hashtag man should be. Ooh.
The 3,000 miles between us has halted any
Hey,
possibility.
you could zoom that easy. Mario on tambourine.
Yeah, that's
No,
it.
I'd play the triangle. I'd play the
Paul likes
bongos.
reading children's books in his free time.
To me. He reads them to me.
I gotta keep. You guys don't understand how stressful this job is from time to time.
Trying to wrangle in a 6'5", 250-pound goofball. Yeah, it's a tough job for Paul.
Yep. How we doing on time?
We got 24 seconds left, so 2 or 3 more roasts. Triangle man. Anyone else making the trip to KC? Oh, I would love to, but I can't. Because Mario can't read. Paul Berg. True statement. I can't. I don't know.
You saw that in the chat, though, right?
I'm guessing the chat stuff. I'm guessing what people. Nick wrong. No bones about it. So.
Paul looks like he can't get within 100 yards of a Chuck E. Cheese.
All right.
I will not confirm nor deny that.
Oh my God, no. We're done with that. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen of Hashtag Nation, Mars Borny was 9 pounds 7 ounces. Yes, the 9 and 7 continues.
9 and 7.
My poor mother. So, ladies and gentlemen of Hashtag Nation and Bills Mafia, thank you for joining us for another episode of Hashtag Sports. We are trending now and trending later. Like I said at the onset of the broadcast, all the super chats and the memberships will be going toward the Punt Foundation. We can't thank you enough. Punt Foundation can't thank you enough. Be sure to check in the description for Mr. Rogers Holmes, the top 1% realtor in Arizona if you're thinking about a move. And like I said, for Paul, I am Mario. This is Hashtag Sports. Thank you guys for joining us once again. We got content for you coming up this week, so stay tuned.